Alright, so we're on step 2 of 3 in learning the basics about provincial politics. Today's topic is the Legislative Assembly. So maybe you've heard of this place called the Legislative Assembly, but do you actually know what it is? We talked in our last video about how MLAs work there, but what does that mean? What goes on in there? The Legislative Assembly of New Brunswick is where the government and members of the Legislative Assembly work their magic. It's also called the legislature, or the Ledge for short. The legislature is the part of the government in charge of making laws and in exercising control over the actions of the Premier and Cabinet. The other parts of the government are the judicial branch, or the justice system, which enforces the laws, and the executive branch, which is made up of the Premier and their Cabinet ministers, who are MLAs responsible for departments like health and education. So what exactly happens in the Legislative Assembly? It's the place where MLAs meet to make and change provincial laws, to approve and review spending taxpayer dollars on public services and government programs, and to ensure that the Premier and Cabinet are held accountable to the people for their actions. Did you know? In the last session of the Legislative Assembly, the House only sat for 32 days, compared to 63 days for the previous sitting. Now, thankfully, sitting days are back up to 53. Here's what the average day looks like at the Ledge when it's sitting. First, guests are introduced by MLAs. Next up is member statements, which are tiny passionate speeches made by MLAs. Then, the floor is open to questions for the infamous question period, or QP for short. This is where MLAs get to ask members of Cabinet about their departments. After QP, petitions are tabled, written questions are submitted, and answers are given by government. Bills are then introduced, the first step in a long process of creating or changing laws. Next, notices of motion are given. Motions are proposals to the MLAs that can be debated but that aren't made into law. Then on Wednesdays, the opposition gives notice of its business for Opposition Day on Thursday afternoons. Did you know? Opposition members only get dedicated time on Thursdays from 2:30 until 6 p.m. to debate their bills and motions. The rest of the week is for items tabled by the Premier and his Cabinet. Finally, there are government motions that determine the agenda for the day, like which bills will be examined. Then the bulk of the work happens when the MLAs actually debate the bills that have been brought up in the legislature. So after all that, you might be asking yourself, why should I care? You should care because the legislature is where our representatives make decisions on our behalf, so that decisions are made democratically as opposed to the Premier and Cabinet just going solo. Making sure that no single part of government holds too much power is an important part of our democracy. When you hear news stories about the legislature sitting for fewer days, or the government shooting down laws proposed by opposition members that make sense, these are signs that our democracy isn't quite as healthy as we'd like to believe it is. So if you're getting fired up and you want to share what you've learned, please like and share this video.